Hi everybody, today's video is going to be a little bit different. I have a couple of guests lined up that are going to be on in just a couple of minutes. I want to explore a topic that's been a bit troubling to me as a licensed therapist to see what's going on in terms of the rush, the push from school systems and other organized institutions to get young kids to think about gender reassignment. What's that about? Now, in my private practice, I've worked with many clients over the years who have considered transitioning male to female, female to male. It's a very important topic worth diving into, right? Usually this happens when somebody's in their mid to late teens or early 20s. They feel like they're trapped in the wrong body. And then in therapy, we can work through all the underlying issues, the feelings, perhaps trauma related to the fact that they want to change their gender. It springs up in a very organic way, something that they've noticed probably since early childhood, and it bubbles and bubbles and bubbles to where they finally come in and work on it at some point, hopefully with a therapist. I also did one of my 2 internships here in Long Beach, California, at the Long Beach Gay and Lesbian Center, where I had the honor of working with a diverse population, including many from the trans community. I had hundreds of hours of experience working with kids who want to transition. We'd explore this in meaningful ways, which would help them understand all the ramifications, all the implications of making this lifetime, lifelong decision, right? But in recent times, it's happening not so much, it appears, in an organic way, but more so in an inorganic way. There actually seems to be an organized push, a well-funded push to get kids to think about this at an early age. Such as, oh, you're depressed or you're having some anxiety? Have you thought about the fact that maybe you're trapped in the wrong body? Or you're having some anger issues over here? You're not sure what the anger's about? Have you ever thought that maybe you need to become a boy or you need to become a girl? That's taking a very serious topic and trying to minimize it into some sort of quick, simple solution for somebody who's too young to even grasp it. In doing some research, one sees that it's very well funded from Planned Parenthood. School systems are promoting this. And so when I saw on Instagram that there's a group called Gays Against Groomers, which is a group of people coming together to look more closely at what's going on here. Let's get a handle on this. Let's unthread this a little bit. When I saw the great work that they're doing, I asked the 2 representatives from our local Long Beach chapter of Gays Against Groomers to come on and let's talk about this. Let's look at something very important and needs to be supported if it's coming in an organic way for a kid versus any sort of agendized program that seems to want to further this along very quickly in an inorganic way. Why is this happening? In just a moment, you'll meet Jen and Meg Martinez, local representatives from Gays Against Groomers. Stay tuned for a very important discussion. Welcome to today's Ask a Shrink video. Today I have some very special guests. We're going to talk about a topic that I think a lot of people haven't even heard about. The name of the organization is called Gays Against Groomers. And I even want to find out what grooming means in terms of this organization. I know what it means to me as a therapist, but let's find more out about this term when I speak to Jen and Meg Martinez, who are here. The local chapter from Long Beach of Gays Against Groomers. And we want to just find out, I want to find out, ladies, about why the heck we even need to have a group like this. Like, what is going on in terms of making children question their gender? If they're caught in the wrong body, it seems to be very organized. I'm concerned as a therapist because, well, for number one, I did my internship many years ago at the Long Beach Gay and Lesbian Center. So I have worked for many years with the gay population, including the transgender population. And even in my private practice, I have clients who are adults and thinking that, you know what, this may be a good idea for me to process the deep feelings associated where one has to go in terms of, am I happy or not with the sex that I am? And that's a process, right? It's a long, involved process usually. You have to work on with a therapist, hopefully. And so when I see what's being done in the school systems, very early ages, actually confusing a lot of kids is what I'm hearing. Tell the audience and myself as well, what you noticed that you began to sense there's something just way over the top here and almost like an indoctrination with our youth today across many organized government programs and school systems. So yeah, whoever would like to start, go ahead and fill us in a little bit on how you see the problem at this stage.
Okay, yeah. Just so everybody knows, I'm Meg, and what really got us interested and started in it is we noticed, especially with our nephew, who was in middle school starting, and he was asking a lot of questions that were kind of off. That, he already knew he had gay aunties, and he kind of knew about it, but he was asking, why does my teacher ask me what my pronouns are? What are pronouns? And like some of the books, he's just like, I don't feel comfortable with this type of stuff because he's a very conservative little boy. I love him so much. He's so smart. But that's really kind of what piqued it. And then, you just see all these trends online. You see all of these new social media platforms just kind of boosting this crazy gender ideology of there's a million pronouns and a million genders. And then you see it starting to happen with the kids and the TikTok and the Instagram. And then it just became overwhelming. And then we saw Jamie's post. So Jamie Michelle is our founder. And she came out and said, I am done. We're taking back our community. And we already had friends in common. And we're just like, we're right there with you. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. So that's really fantastic. How it started.
Yeah. And Jen, what's your involvement in terms of what do you do on a local level? And are you involved more than that? How do you advocate for kids from your end of it? And perhaps even what your passion is about from your end?
For me, it really started in 2015 when I started seeing that this was going to be a slippery slope. It began with what appeared to be a war on women. And I would say, especially in the UK, it took a turn for the worse. I mean, they have laws there that even if somebody were to innocently misgender somebody, you will have the police at your door. Wow. Canada is the same thing. They have really strict, odd laws about that. And I mean, it just like you're getting punished for hurting somebody's feelings. And in some cases, you may not even know that you're doing that. Where it took a turn for me is I started seeing a lot of Reddit posts of young lesbians that would have just grown up to look like me and be more on the masculine presenting side, being encouraged and being told by adult men that, well, it's probably because you're actually a boy. And I saw a lot of coercion going on between adults and minors. And I said to Megan, eventually they're going to eradicate gay and lesbian people like this by convincing them that they can just trans the gay away. And that was a scary thought for me because as lesbians, I mean, we're here in Long Beach. There are no lesbian spaces anymore. And this thing kind of pushed everything to the edge for the gay community in general. And I honestly, my biggest fear and the reason why I also advocate, not just for the kids that can't and the parents that are too afraid because of the backlash, it's also because unfortunately, when this thing falls apart, the entire community, whether you agree with it or not, is going to become collateral damage.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. And I just have to smile at that saying, trans the gay away. It's I think it's very apropos for what's going on here. So let's get into a little bit about the whole Planned Parenthood involvement, which is obviously a hugely funded organization. Why are they even involved in having anything to do with the transformation of a child in the ways that we're describing? What's your opinion on that?
So the number one problem that we have with Planned Parenthood, and we actually just gave a speech about this at the Long Beach school board meeting, is they seem to have taken a huge shift from where they receive their income and their donations. It went from abortions to now giving puberty blockers and HRT, which is cross-sex hormones, to minors and adults as well. The biggest problem we have is you only have to be 12 years old and walk into one of the clinics, and they talk to you for an hour. You read a little pamphlet. You say you understand. There's no parental consent. There's no parental knowledge. They don't tell anybody. And you are on puberty blockers. The problem that we have with that is Lupron is the number one use, and it has so many side effects that are detrimental to people's health. as well as HRT. There's people who have transitioned in their 40s and now have lifelong issues being on these cross-sex hormones. In kids, it's causing brain swelling, it's causing displacement, it's causing atrophy of the genitals, it's causing heart murmurs and liver issues. But they don't say any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And most of these kids are going in there. It's become a societal pressure. It is a social contagion that's happening. But Planned Parenthood is making about $100,000 off of each one of these patients. And that is the biggest problem, is they are preying on our weakest, which is our children.
Yeah. So we have the dollar bill involved, of course, and that's what this video is meant to do today, to try to poke at this a little bit. And for people watching that, or even maybe the first time even hearing about it, it's getting to not only what's happening, but perhaps some underlying reasons. So I like that you pointed that out. With that in mind, then what do we say to parents and caregivers who maybe are watching indeed, or find out about this in the future, that I just can't believe it? Why would a well-known organization like Planned Parenthood be doing something like this? Why would our school systems be involved? I just cannot take it in. And I really think these people are a little bit loopy for even thinking this may be going on.
As you know, maybe people don't know the past and the history about what Planned Parenthood, how they started. The founder, she was a eugenicist, and she basically wanted to pick off the weakest links in humanity and make a perfect society, right? And I don't see that mission has changed much, because if you look at the kids that are being targeted and really falling prey to this, a large swath of them are autistic. They're the outsiders. Maybe they're suffering, physical abuse at home. A lot of them have sexual trauma from childhood, and or dismissed parents where they don't have any friends, they're being bullied. Those are the kids that are being the most affected, and they're being given only one option, and it's this affirm only model. And it's really sad, because they're treating a symptom, not the cause. Mm-hmm. And then they use suicidality as a manipulation. And it's like, well, wait a minute, you never even gave this kid a chance, because you never actually tried to help them. You just wanted to get them set on this course of medicalization for the rest of their life. How can a kid that's 12 years old consent to losing sexual function for the rest of their life? Mm-hmm. And or even bone loss, things like that we see that are happening. We do have detransitioners in our organization that do contribute, and the things that they are dealing with now are not only sad, they have a very hard time finding help, because the medical community and the mental health community are so quick to affirm and get these surgeries rolling and get all these medications going, because follow the money. I always say it's very profitable for them. Mm-hmm. However, the minute that they say, I think I made a mistake, the medical community and the mental health community disappear on them, and they cannot find help. It's very hard, because many doctors are scared to lose their licenses if they don't do this affirm only model. And it's very scary, because like I said, I don't know in society when we decided it was a good idea to let children lead. Mm-hmm. They have parents for a reason. And as I've said, society is meant, even in tribal times, to protect the most vulnerable. And I don't know where we lost that. Yeah. But I just feel like even some of these parents are encouraging it and going along with it. And I said, I don't even have children, but I see this and I feel just so drawn and so encouraged to, somebody's got to fight for these kids. These kids, that 90% of them just grow up to be happy gay adults if you leave them alone and let them just discover themselves.
I think one of the biggest problems that I see is that the reason why we have to exist is because the parents that are speaking up about it, they are automatically claimed to be homophobic, transphobic. They are, all of the bad phobics in the world, but you can't say that about a bunch of gay and trans people.
Yeah.
Like, we're not homophobic against ourselves. So
Well, and that's why it's been an interesting journey for me, because in my practice and over the years of working with all kinds of clients, I've worked with clients who are transitioning. And as I mentioned, my internship working with youth that are questioning this. And I can see as a therapist how this is a gut wrenching process that takes a long time to understand one's feelings about it. Usually, we certainly have to be in our late teens, but really even better early 20s to kind of even grasp at the depth of the implications of all this, right? So when you hear about little kids, basically it's being promoted, they're being sort of led to this in different ways. And like, what the hell do we do with that? Now, and thanks for the rundown about Planned Parenthood. Do you think, Jen, that the same thing applies to the school systems being involved, where we could say follow the money? Do you think that kind of blends in with Planned Parenthood, or is there a distinction there? Because I have a friend who works in the school systems down in San Diego who's a teacher, and he's reported that with his sixth graders, I believe it is, that he is not allowed to tell the parents, even talk to the parents, if one of his students says, you know what, my name is Paul, let's say it's a male child named Paul, and I just feel like I'm trapped in the wrong body and I want to go by Melissa now. So he's confiding this to the teacher, which is a good thing. But what I find shocking, at least what this teacher has told me, is that he absolutely is not allowed to break the confidentiality of this child. So he has to keep this in, when in reality, of course, the first thing you want to do is reach out to the parents, right? Because you're dealing with a minor here. So when I heard this, I thought, this is just nuts. Now, this is just a story I heard from somebody I do trust. Is this really happening? Can you concur that in some school systems, it's reached this level where they can't even include the parents in basic conversations?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's kind of funny because the radical trans version of the trans community is very much on the oppression train, because oppression is currency in 2023. Yet they are the most powerful lobby in the world. They could literally get away with murder and people would just go stunning and brave. And it's very scary because they are funneling a lot of money into politicians, into the teachers unions, in order to get this trash propagated to these kids and really confusing them, you know, because again, a lot of these ideas, I don't think that they would be able to just manifest on their own. They're actually, again, being coerced into this confusion. And a lot of them, I mean, you see so many what we call trans trenders. This is like the new emo. And if you look at the demographics, what you're going to see is there's and this is a real, the most recent stat, a 4,000% increase in young girls transitioning. But they're not looking into the reasons why they're wanting to opt out of their womanhood. And again, there's a lot of that sexual trauma. And again, a lot of it's actually young white girls. And I think with that, I'm also going to bring up a little bit of the CRT parts of the indoctrination are telling these young white girls they're oppressors. And that because of the color of their skin, which they cannot change, they're bad people. So I mean, and I think about that and I said, wouldn't I want to opt out of that and be part of the oppressed group and not be lumped in with these bad people? And I think there's so many factors into why these kids are doing it. I mean, and not just that, but everybody wants to be an influencer because they don't want to work to do anything, you know. Everybody wants to just a participation trophy for showing up and pay me because I'm here. But so a lot of these people, if you're seeing you know, Dylan Mulvaney is one of the most pervasive on TikTok. He makes a mockery of women, but he is raking in thousands, if not millions of dollars on a regular basis. He was on the Grammys. He got invited to the White House. And this guy he had a Tampax deal. And when this is wild, is this real life?
And just to kind of like circle back to what you were saying about the schools, is yes, there is a code within the California school district system. So all of California, there is a privacy clause. It is available on every single USD website in California, as well as the California state site, that teachers are not allowed to tell parents what their kid's gender is if the kids don't want to. And their reasoning is they're afraid of parent retaliation, that their parents are going to harm the child or something like that. So that is the reason for the clause.
Yeah.
And the teachers are forced to go along with whatever it is.
Yeah.
So if one day Paul wants to be Pauline and then the next day Paul wants to be a dog,
a furry,
like they have to go with it because
Yeah,
it is the
unfortunately.
student privacy clause and it's starting in kindergarten.
That's just where it crosses any common sense involved with this at this point, which one can't help wonder what's going on. Like for somebody like me, a very out gay man, very active in the gay community for many years, I feel on some level sometimes like I'm turning on the community. It's a little bit discombobulating, but one can't help look at all this, just even with what you were saying right there, and think there's something a bit more going on, and we have to unthread it. That's why I'm so glad that the two of you came on, because we have to begin the work in this and saying, what the heck is this about? And that's very shocking. And I think if I was a teacher, I would have a hard time with that. I don't know quite know how I would handle that. When you're dealing with 7, 8-year-old kids, the first thing you want to do obviously is include the parents. So very shocking to hear that.
And sadly, we have teachers coming to us every single day. We have 15 from one particular school district that are just, they can't handle it anymore, but they're afraid to speak up because of retaliation. They're going to lose their jobs. And so we are being their voices for them. We're being the voices for the parents who can't speak up.
Yeah.
We are out there, and a lot of the words that we say, it is because we are the LGBT and T. We are not the QIA plus whatever alphabet they put at the end of it, because at the end of the day, LGB is a sexuality. T is a mental illness. It's a gender dysphoria.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I see.
there is a separation, and everything past the T, I don't know where it came from. Like, I don't remember signing the vote saying yes, but I mean, no.
Very interesting, though, because I think a lot of gay people feel that same way. Where did these other letters come from? Most of us don't necessarily know. So what's the name of the TikTok artist again who you referred to earlier?
Dylan Mulvaney. He's super famous. I'm sure most people know who he is.
And then there's another one, Jeffrey Marsh.
Oh, yeah, that one's very problematic.
You were saying that you wanted to kind of know the definition of groomer.
That's it.
Go to TikTok and look up Jeffrey Marsh. That is
okay.
A groomer is somebody who is going to try to convince a minor that they are better for them than their parents. They know better for them. They're trying to separate them from the parents and force like an ideology that may not align with what the parents believe or sane people in general, and just kind of literally groom the child into what they want them to be. And sadly, it's into the gender ideology, it's into sexuality, it's into medicalizing themselves and making them feel that that's okay to hide from their parents and that their parents are evil and against them.
Yeah.
That is the definition of a groomer.
I have an idea about the puberty blockers, of course. I'm sure anybody listening, when they hear that term, has an idea of what it means. We all go through puberty, of course, and we think about something that blocks it. But can you be a little more specific about it from your knowledge about what the blockers actually do?
Yes. So what they do is they actually suppress the body's natural system of finishing growing out. So it is suppressing
the pituitary gland.
It's
allowing you to grow up.
Preventing your organs from fully functioning. It's preventing your brain from fully growing. It's preventing your bones from fully hardening. So a lot of these kids that are on it, that they were put on it at 11 or 12, they're now 18 with osteoporosis and back issues and arthritis. They have underdeveloped lungs and hearts to
Genitals.
Their genitals never fully function. They lose all sexual function. Actually, if say there was a young man who was trans with gender dysphoria and does grow up and want to decide to do that for himself and transition and have that bottom surgery, there is nothing to work with anymore for that to happen. But the main thing is that always leads to the next thing. So puberty blockers, they're stopping the natural process of the body from growing and developing.
Mhm.
in every aspect. Generally speaking, within 2 years or a year of being on puberty blockers, they immediately put the child onto cross-sex hormones, which is
Mm.
also just amplifying the same thing that the puberty blockers did.
Mhm. Mhm.
Within a year or two, they are moving on to, unfortunately, mostly with little girls, mastectomies,
Yeah.
or they call it top surgery, where they remove the
Wow.
healthy breast.
And they are not reversible. This is
No.
another myth
Wow.
that they keep trying to sell people, is that they are reversible. No, it's not. If your vital organs and your genitals aren't growing, that they're not going to grow once you decide to turn the switch back on. You know, that's
Mhm.
not the way it works. And unfortunately, these things are also sterilizing kids.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that they don't tell people. And who can make that decision as a minor? That's insane to me.
The amount of
Mhm. Wow.
So the one thing, if parents do have questions, you can always fall back to Reddit.
Yeah.
There are so many Reddit threads where there are kids who are detransitioning and they are upset and mad because they have destroyed themselves health-wise before they're even 18. And a lot of the parents who go along with it are just scared to say no because they're using the threat against them. Would you rather have a dead daughter and a live son?
Mhm. Yeah.
And really,
I
this
love
is-
it because that kind of, well, thank you, because that kind of leads to our last question today, which ties into basically what can parents or caregivers do to just help restore common sense to basically what has become indoctrination, sexualization of children, and the medicalization as well. I mean, so we have a lot of intense things happening, and that ties in right there to the question of, in your opinions, what can the average parent person do? So one of the things you just mentioned, the whole Reddit thing, is probably good to get familiar with that. A lot of education there, I'm imagining, depending on what the thread is about. What else comes to mind that the two of you maybe can recommend? Helpful things that people can do to become involved.
We have an entire resource page on our Gays Against Groomers website that parents can refer to. It's a lot of organizations that we partner with that are very resourceful and available at all times for them. They can reach out to the organization through emails, and we can help educate parents. And also, if they need, especially locally, if they feel that they need a voice there, we're definitely available, and we're willing to go and help anybody who needs us, because it's got to stop. And I just feel like we have the best chance to do it from within the community, because the call's coming from inside the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is just be involved in your kids' lives.
Yeah, look at
You
your
know,
kids' curriculum 100%.
A lot of the school districts will not post it because they say it is copyrighted, but every parent has the right to go down to the school and request to see the curriculum that their children are learning. You have the right to go into the library and see the books that are available. All of the books that they are learning and provided in school, a lot of them are very
explicit, to say the least.
graphic
Uh-huh.
illustrations. But just be very involved in your kid's life. And if your child comes home and asks a question about a pronoun, take it upon yourself to explain it to them first, prior to having somebody else explain it who may not have the best interest of the child in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So just be very involved in your kid's life. Don't be afraid to speak up. Go to school boards, go to city council boards. If you need help with that, we are creating an ally resource so that way you can join along with us as parents. There are tons of organizations all over the country. We are expanding like crazy. We are now in 3 separate countries. We're working on 4 more.
Mhm.
We have over 30 chapters across the country, and
Fantastic.
there's somebody here to help.
I have a feeling we're going to have to do a part 2 down the road, because there's more we could talk about, but I don't want to overwhelm people too much the first go round. But so very helpful. And thank you both so much for coming on, Meg and Jen. I know I appreciate it. I know the audience does as well. I will have links in the description box below for people who want to look up some of what we've talked about today. That'll be there. As I mentioned, I'm sure that there's going to be a part 2 down the road. So thank you both so much for coming on, and we will meet again.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so
Okay.
much.